5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Start. The debate around whether to employ a stick or no-stick policy in schools has been ongoing for decades, and it brings to light a broader discussion about discipline, child development, and the role of education in shaping behavior. At the heart of this debate is the question, should physical punishment be used as a method to enforce discipline, or are there more effective, humane, and respectful approaches to guiding student behavior? A stick policy refers to the use of corporal punishment, which includes striking students with a stick or other implement as a disciplinary measure. This method was historically common in many educational institutions and was often considered an efficient way to control classroom behavior. On the other hand, a no-stick policy emphasizes nonviolent disciplinary methods such as counseling, behavioral contracts, detention, positive reinforcement, and restorative practices. Proponents of the stick policy often argue that corporal punishment delivers immediate consequences for bad behavior, thereby deterring future misconduct. They believe it instills respect, obedience, and a clear understanding of the consequences of breaking rules. In environments where students are perceived to be difficult to manage, some argue that physical discipline is the only effective way to maintain order and ensure learning can proceed without constant disruptions. There is also a cultural and generational dimension to the support for this approach. Some individuals who experienced corporal punishment as students themselves argue that it toughened them up or helped them learn right from wrong. To these individuals, the use of the stick is not abuse but a necessary tool to maintain discipline and prepare students for the real-world consequences of poor choices. Despite its long history, the stick policy has come under intense criticism. Critics argue that physical punishment is a form of violence that can lead to fear, resentment, and psychological harm. It may suppress undesirable behavior in the short term, but it does not address the root cause of the behavior or teach students how to make better choices. In fact, it may teach them that violence is an acceptable way to solve problems or exert control. Research has shown that physical punishment can have lasting negative effects on a child's self-esteem and emotional well-being. It can lead to increased aggression, antisocial behavior, and in some cases, academic disengagement. When students fear their teachers or school environment, it undermines the trust and mutual respect needed for effective learning. Moreover, there are concerns about the misuse or overuse of corporal punishment. The subjective nature of discipline means that some students may be unfairly targeted or excessively punished, particularly in the absence of strict guidelines or oversight. This inconsistency can foster a climate of fear and resentment, rather than one of learning and growth. A no-stick policy is based on the idea that discipline should be educative rather than punitive. The goal is to help students develop self-control, empathy, and responsible behavior through guidance and support. This approach treats mistakes as opportunities for learning, rather than solely as infractions to be punished. There are numerous methods within the no-stick framework that have proven to be effective. Positive reinforcement, for example, focuses on rewarding good behavior, which encourages students to act in desirable ways. Restorative practices emphasize dialogue, accountability, and making amends for wrongdoing, helping students understand the impact of their actions on others. Behavioral interventions and counseling offer another layer of support, particularly for students with underlying emotional or psychological challenges. Rather than labeling such students as troublemakers, a no-stick policy seeks to understand the root of the behavior and provide the tools and strategies needed to improve it. This approach also fosters a more positive school culture, where students feel safe, respected, and valued. Such an environment is more conducive to learning and personal growth. When discipline is administered with empathy and fairness, it models the kind of behavior schools hope to instill in their students. Implementing a no-stick policy is not without challenges. It requires more time, training, and resources than traditional disciplinary methods. Teachers and staff must be equipped with the skills to manage classrooms effectively, de-escalate conflicts, and build meaningful relationships with students. In schools with large class sizes, limited funding, or a lack of support services, maintaining discipline without corporal punishment can be particularly difficult. Some educators may feel that their authority is undermined or that students are not held accountable for their actions in a meaningful way. Additionally, transitioning from a stick policy to a no-stick policy requires a cultural shift not just among educators, but also among parents and the wider community. Expectations around discipline are deeply rooted, and changing them often involves overcoming resistance and skepticism. Ultimately, the goal of any school disciplinary policy should be to create an environment where students can learn and thrive. Discipline is essential, but it must be balanced with compassion, fairness, and a commitment to student development. Rather than focusing solely on punishment, schools should aim to instill internal motivation and a sense of responsibility in students. This means helping them understand why certain behaviors are unacceptable and how their actions affect others. When students are part of the process, when they are heard, understood, and supported, they are more likely to take ownership of their behavior and make better choices in the future. Discipline should not break a student's spirit or damage their sense of self-worth. Instead, it should guide them toward becoming respectful, thoughtful, and resilient individuals. The use of the stick in schools is a controversial issue that reflects broader values around authority, discipline, and human rights. While some still advocate for its effectiveness in maintaining order, there is a growing recognition that nonviolent approaches are not only more humane but also more effective. Ultimately, The choice between a stick or no stick policy is not just about managing behavior, it is about deciding what kind of environment we want to create for young people and what kind of values we want to pass on to the next generation. Stop.